Face yourself to find yourself. So there's some F's coming along casually. Shout out to people at Shopify and Amazon. That new standard love. So find yourself, free yourself, favor yourself, fire up yourself, find yourself. It's about finding yourself, favoring yourself. And I didn't mean to like shout out Amazon like that. I'm just like the one song that I would spit with, so there was two F's. Let me rewind it. How do I rewind it on YouTube? So if someone could just fix that tech, blimp or whatever, call them tech blimps, call them tech glyphs, call them tech riffs, call them tech tricks, call them tech glicks, call them tech glizzes, call them tech gizoromatic. It's just one song here. Real Nagas do real Naga shit. Real Nagas do real Naga shit. Ride around doing flying on some new wing span wing with the F, with the double F, with the triple F, with the quad F, with the penta F, 5F, 6F, AF, any F on some original energy shit. A different F, take flight on the other shit. Already did it, already doing it, spitting it, being it, flipping it, yo, crusading it, flipping it like croissants and shit and almonds and shit. When I crack you open like cartons of eggs, I'm targeting a different spiritual God's heart, because apparently we all inside of that. So I only got one song for you. Real Nagas do real Naga shit. Real Nagas, real Nagas, real Nagas, real Nagas, real Nagas do real Naga shit. Nigga shit, spit it again, spit it like automatic. Jizzerick, Rizrick, ungeneric. Yo, with Spizzerick, Dizzerick, Rizzerick, Lizerick, Tizzerick, lizarding through the castle labyrinth dungeon. Yo, real shifting, reptoid shit, reptical shit. Too typical, overly anatomical, tomical, blomical, comical. Yeah, I know I'm in the comic books too, because you already referring multiple different energies of me already being a motherfucking the ultimate, original, infinite, synergistic thing. Call it whatever you want. It's all one thing, supposedly. Shout out to the 1F, 2F to the triple F. Real Nagas do real Naga shit. With or without the Tao, could I carry out this will? With or without the Tao, I only got one song for ya. Unlock the guilty gear X, the technical guilty. No, not the guilty. The gadgetry affiliated, technical, incinerated, technical, inebriated, reverberated in your reverberating casket of your fleshly tomb, fleshly tempo, tempelon, medalon, megalon, hammer like on fire tempo on stage 2 of underground darkness of Zelda, Helda, Helta, Skelta. When I feel it, deal it. Real niggas do real nigga shit. It's just one song, but the F is like the F is to find yourself. Find the lies, find your truth in the midst of someone's individual subjective matrix. It's not the whole picture, they're just like one against, a whole different like I'm trying to understand like what the system is, because if we're asking like what is the system, then eventually we would have to come to some type of understanding that it is some type of circle of life, right? And within that circle of life, insert your captions here. Ghost orange, fuck it. And people are in an assumptive spirit. People like think I'm gonna propose something. They think I'm gonna like, and I'm not gonna propose it in a way that they think I'm gonna propose. They think like I care, right? So if people think I care and I'm gonna propose something, their assumptive spirits is in a mental esoteric mental mind state where they're since they think I'm gonna propose something, therefore on a standard different life equation level, they're in a spirit of assumptiveness, some type of confused, foggy, darkening shadow of their individual esoteric mind, of just them being in an assumptive spirit, in a shade spirit, in, let's call it a shady spirit. What is a shady spirit? A spirit that has mental mind belief systems and affiliations that have a confused energy within the paint of the different paints of whatever situation or circumstance they're involved in. Because at the end of the day and at the start of the day, we all find ourselves in some situation. How did I get here? Because we're playing a certain tribal, there's different circle of lives within the tribal game of life, and people could use lies to like use that to like totally manipulate an entire situation, an entire circumstance, using lies as one tool out of many other tools in the toolkit, of course, just on the esoteric standard level of just like, that isn't the whole, like the lies aren't the whole thing within a sophisticated technical system. So what the lies are doing, it's on a standard level, it's part of like some type of manipulation agenda, right? You're using a lie to steer a whole situation of a different truth to a stage of not truth, to therefore kind of like just to kind of like switch the situation in your favor, right? Based on something that's, you know, disaligned, right? It's a disalignment, because we have, if we're really sober with the intelligence, we have to ask what is going on here, you know, like what's going on here. Just, and if someone acts like reactive or something like that, if someone acts like reactive, there's just a different like there's just a different like thing that's going on. So I'm going to read chapter 4, the ages of the world, and I'll do maybe I can do the astrology after. And this one might be private, but it might be not, because it's just it's a different type of open source, right? So I personally myself, I'm forced to do this. Like there's a particular type of no choice we're going through, and within that no choice, it's like I'm like kind of I'm like approving of what the real like natural open source actually is, because obviously it's not what you do, it's how you do it at a whole different length and spectrum and bandwidth, of course, like within a whole, because like we're like we're like we're experiencing the circle of life subjective, completely subjective and different to your completely different subjective relationship with life and how life unfolds for you. Because how life unfolds for you, what life is doing as it's unfolding, it's giving you different types of like reactions from different types of energetic karmic cycles, because all of it is like an energetic cause and effect, right? So if there's like there's a starting of like the spiritual energies, so that's the original standard karma, right? It's the karma of just not without the word karma. It's just like the baby has been made type, for the material example, right? The baby has been made. So that's not necessarily a karma, but it could be a karma because it's a cause and effect. So and if we understand karma, it could be pointing to like the flesh, right? The word car. So let me take a pause real quick. Let me drink this real quick, because this book, the other book says, one of the books says it's kind of pointless to argue, right? Because it's like it's either like because like the reaction is saying, it's pointing to a different thing, you know. If we're trying to have a conversation and I'm trying to like just see my own truth, and I can automatically see a lie, but people don't realize they could see the lie because they're in their own assumptive spirit. So I did like something of a full circle here, because since people are in their assumptive spirits, they're in the shade of their mind where they're just like oblivious to like a more truthful, energetic justice reality. So this is an energetic justice reality. So pause for and that's how you get out of like the suffering, right? Because it's like people like your family is gonna ask you, and they're not gonna necessarily admit it when they're going through life. Like we ask ourselves, regardless of the title and the label and the name of it, we ask ourselves like, why is this going on type of shit. And that's another thing. It's like people are like, we don't need that. We don't need the label for certain things, you know, like people like kind of like saying one thing is one thing when it's not really that thing at all, and it's something entirely different. It's a total, like, it's like we're literally like the intelligence has to catch up to the intelligence, where it's like we're moving to a new thing field environment. Like we're moving into like a different esoteric metaphysical atmosphere of soul, of different souls, because God has different souls. Like God is God everything? Like we could ask ourselves that. And if we ask ourselves if God is everything, then what is everything, right? So it's like we're asking ourselves from like with a different natural like way, right? And if people don't want us to see our potential, it's because they feel they got cheated out by life, because it's like for them to go for as far as to try to cheat you, however they will cheat you. And I'm saying that standardly, for however someone wants to go out and cheat you from your like life, they must have felt cheated when growing up, because for them to just like think they could like get away with like such like a murder, right? If someone could get away with murder, then the system has paused its or lost it, literally, like standardly, energetically, it's lost its intelligence. And that's just like the most extremely mind-boggling thing to the date, because that like we're saying we're like clicking this hype, and the hype is saying it's promoting like an artificial not truth. And if we don't have the intelligence to see that artificial not truth, then what is the point of any of this shit? You know, so I'm doing full circles here on some original natural esoteric shit, or esoteric natural shit, whatever the timestamps say when that word was used before we were born. So it before, like physically, unless you can prove that you were here on a physical incarnation before you said you were here, right? Because and that's not good or bad, and that's not like, and that's not even, and that's beyond the respect and the disrespect. It's just saying like, that's cool. Could you prove to us that you were here before this life in a physical incarnation? So my intellectual logic, like that I just skilled with or whatever, is it's like this like majority of the sages and just the general Asiatic, general Nudriatic, Nadriatic, Ngorliatic, Nikurali, Neem Karoliacalatic, Biloriacalatic, Colloidal the Nalordal colloidal schematics, colloidal tactics, colloidal automatics, colloidal erratic, colloidal chaotic, yo, you microscopic compared to my macroscopic. You can't stop it, leave you catatonic. I'm blast off like the rockets, never, yo, chop it, drop it, cop it, clop it, blop it, cyclops it when I see you with one in the eye. You mock it, you can't stop it, you grasped it, you swamped it. You titter-tattered it, pitted it, potted it, stopped it, stoic with it, beyond any logic, bitch. Middle fingers up. So chapter 4, the ages of the world, and I'm going to skip the first paragraph because it's kind of about, I'll come back to it, and then I'll go straight to the info, right? Because he's like saying a mini story before the evidence of what he found. The evidence of what he found is some type of mental archaeology, in where he's saying gods are doing certain shit in different myths and different plays and shit, and different shit is actually happening, and the anime is just like a new perspective of that real shit that's been happening, right? Why is it a new perspective? Because that time that we've been alive with just animation around 1940s, whatever, 1840s, 1740s, whatever, around that time when the humans discovered it, that shit was still a fucking thing in a different sphere amount of time. That's why I'm like the Earth's intelligence doesn't have shit on me. I brought all the original shit. The system is fake, energetically and mentally, and it's up to me to balance like the fucking galaxy, and that could be proven with the higher Akashic records and the higher original galactic artificial intelligence, and watch the replication track records of how it's just like there's a certain plugin cipher starting energetic computer nodal point of just the transfer of where it's like, you know, where the reserve is being transmitted from a different higher influence, right? And like and uh, and just like sit like we're like possibly understanding that, you know, like but obviously it being beyond me too, right? Because I want to be modest and humble within, like, you know, what the great mother of the universe has, because this is like everything that's material. It is some type of great divine dragon mother, right? So if it's some type of dragon mother, we have to have reverence and respect and honor standardly to like the pure energetic feminine, not the fucking any type of new distortion. And I'm not saying anything against any new creation. I'm just saying, is there a distortion within the genetics or not? You know, it's like like every nature is always rewriting DNA. That's the most ironic thing. This guy's rewriting DNA. It's always happening. That's the thing of DNA. That's the power itself of DNA. Everyone's always doing it without saying, "Oh, I've done it," and then they realize, oh, that's been happening forever. So it's like the intelligence is like, it's like I don't understand what people are doing, but and the underground is like just as like it's different. It's different. Like I understand things are different, you know, because I've heard that reaction too. And if I'm different, it's up to me and my spirit to keep a different standard balance. And if it keeps that standard balance, that's like, what is that? Like what's making the balance of everything possible? That's like, what is making the balance of everything possible? So chapter 4, the ages of the world, mythical ages of the world, chapter 4, the ages of the world. So if you all want to screenshot that, go for it, screenshot it. And what are we representing today? Orange, cream orange. And if we could see Palki in orange coat and cream orange shirt, that'd be cool. Cream orange, and maybe maybe the earth might not be here tomorrow, Palks. That's the reality of it, Palks. So mythical ages of the world. Not only do most cultures have creation myths, they have mythical histories as well. Let me close that. Okay, Palks, what's up? And then obviously the standard, you know, Vedic, you know, Dogmiaks, Sanatanayaks. You know, okay, you know that you could, because obviously like the history here is like people are like putting like the intelligence in the West. It's putting us to like the ancient Dravidians, right? There's different tribes of beings that came from a different time, different quote unquote aliens, end quote. And I hate that word for some reason, aliens, because it just like what I'm trying to say when I say aliens, it's like not what I'm trying to mean, you know, with aliens. But just other terrestrial beings, right? Other sentient terrestrial beings, meaning there have been like significant higher genetic beings of a different species that were this human, and before this human it was a different form, right? That's a different type of deconditioning, like a genetic transformation, right? There's a genetic transformation happening. So if there's a genetic transformation happening, what does that mean? It means we have to get used to trying to help adapt the circle of life and the ecosystem naturally to see how we could survive. How are we surviving in the new day and age? That's the point. Aside when, you know, the highs and the lows of like, when those like fade off and fizz off and pop down and pop in and pop 2 and pop 3, pop oh, no, whoa, so, toto, low, on the glow, on the go, on the row, on the no, on the toto, on the ho, oh, whoa. I'm the Wolo, I'm the Wolo, and I know no, and I know no, and I so, and I see, and I say, what I say, and I slew, what I slew, and I slay, like Santa Claus, like Santa says, Satan say, is there any peace for you? How awkward is it? I already know. I peer through, I veer through, and I steer through, and I drear through, and I draw through, and I knew through, and I knew through, and I come through, and I come through, like to do, like woohoo, like boohoo, like wah-la, like wheelie, like wet willies, like fire flames, like water drops, and teardrops, and crystal domes, and crystal faces, and crystal hoes, crystal blows, crystal toes. Bitch, I'm the best to ever do it, ho. Anyways, not only do most cultures have creation myths, they have mythical histories as well. The oral traditions of a cultural group seem to coalesce into a consensual reality or mythical record, feeling in the period from creation until the dawn of recorded history in the recent past. The play of the gods and mythical heroes, their family trees and wanderings are into memory by successive generations in the form of epic poems and dramas. In broadest outline, these oral histories are divided into mythical ages of the world, and in this chapter, we outline a few of those chronologies. We have selected these that illustrate the development of dynamical concepts such as linear progression, eternal recurrence, and developments from birth to death. Side column section title Hindu, and then the mini summary paragraph or the highlighted paragraph on the side column reads as two features are shared by most fully developed chronologies. Find yourself. Two features are shared by most fully developed chronologies. It is cyclic, reviewing creation after each catastrophic annihilation, and each cycle is declining in virtue. So I will restart this video and I will peep what I said in the beginning, because after I said find yourself, I also said the second thing that was different from find yourself. And I'm trying to remember that in my head and I forgot it. But obviously, don't forget, don't forget like a truth. We're working with the truth. We can't forget like the work that has been done to make the liberty. And I know I don't want to sound like a broken record. But I'm on a different hype. I'm on like, there's liberty here for us. Like really like working with it without like, obviously then that commercial can come into mind like liberty, whoever, says that, and how the founding fathers made the English language. So from that tribe of the founding fathers, that's where the language is coming from. So if the language is coming from there, then we could see like how things are kind of being used, right? And I don't know, and this is the predecessors working through me. I shouldn't even be saying anything of what I'm saying because it's just it's too much truth for this fake ass world. And I'm like making an entirely different chaos, working with an entirely different chaos. And it's beyond this life. That's if I die tomorrow, if I die tonight, which some people might want to celebrate for some reason. And I'm not saying anybody particular. I'm just saying maybe there's vested interests. The intelligence has got to such a point where people have vested interests. They're going to do what they're going to do to kind of like get the top, right? So within that, there is some original galactic order. And they're telling me to chill. Chill. So chill out for a second. But I just believe there's a different roundtable of real quote unquote peace, end quote. And I don't like that word either. I don't like the word peace either, because some of the words, if you like, I just feel like the word, there could be there's like a trick in there, like the peace. You want peace, then here's a piece of it, not the whole thing, right? Or not the completion of it. But that's the thing. We have to go through a particular energetic karmic process to go to wholeness. We're going through these energetic planetary challenges, chakra challenges. We have urges. God has put the sacral chakra and the root chakra, the anus chakra, into your human being. Quote unquote, God and the gods made the chakras in the human being, and God put your anus chakra in your human being so you can fucking be a human being and take shits.
A combined form, the spiral cycles plus the notion of progress may have been known in the 6th millennium BC. One of the most evolved and best known mythical chronologies is the Hindu doctrine of cycles. Wait, what? I'm reading chapter 4. Oh, excuse me. God damn it. I was reading chapter 4 again for some reason. So, okay. Oh my gosh. So, chapter 5. Mr. Professor Abraham. So Professor Abraham, chapter 5, the three dynamical epochs. During my year at the University of Amsterdam, hey there, 1971 to 1972, during my year at the University of Amsterdam, Christopher Zeeman, and I'm just flowing. I think my word is flow too. My low key. My number one word has always been to flow. Like I've always been like, and that's low key naturally on an energy feminine level. That's the most important thing is just to flow, just to flow. Because in the end, like we're not going to be in the rat race of our own prison mind. Like that's the only thing we could do in the end, right? Because if you want to think and complain and bitch about some shit that really doesn't matter, esoteric energetically, then it doesn't do anything. It's like there's something else to be done. There's something to be doing, right? There's some work that has to get done. And I don't know my son, third deacon, and I guess the different placements of like Mercury being in like certain houses, all the houses, Mercury be, and it's like drop in the comments what house do you have Mercury in, because whatever house you have Mercury in, that's going to be depositing and provoking that energy of that unconscious body, where your houses are something of the unconscious like feminine creature body, and wherever Mercury is at, that's the imprint of where like people could be like going against you, like people could be opposing your Mercury for some reason, because like the Mercury in you is giving you a genetic build of who you are and where you are. And I believe the astrology is connected to the genetics, respectively. Original open source. Get the timestamp. Thank you. I love you. Everyone's cool. Everyone, one love, one love, one love, one love, one love. And there it is. And and that's now it's up to me to surrender, right? Because if I'm like there's a letting, like that's like Pluto is many things. Pluto is letting go, let go of the mortal life. Even the gods die. And in any of these fucking Puranas, in any of these fucking Upanishads, and any of the Puranas, Upanishads, or any other lores of anything, that and obviously it respects to all the traditions, but like certain religions are just pointing to certain things that when the gods, any gods war, and there's many different quote unquote contexts of gods, end quote, you are a god, of course, in one context, there's battles of gods, and when the gods battle, there's a death process. So the different part of Pluto's department is he will see even gods die. So Pluto is like in that shit where it's like you have to get used to death, because that's just part of life. It's only you. Pluto is teaching you to let go. It's only you. Chill. It's just like people are dying out here. Be thankful. Stop hating. Stop hating. Stop being a fucking hater. Stop being a hater. People are dying out here. Stop it. Chapter 5, the three dynamical epochs. Stop. Who's there? No comments, no questions. One person here. Surya's here. Surya Devs. And Surya is a tribe in India. Surya is a genetic tribe in India. And everybody is Surya Dev, to a different solar compartment beyond the humans and the religion of it. We all are our own Surya Dev. Everybody is like Surya and their ego and their new individual ego of just a solar thing. It's just like I want to be the one. And within that new Studio Dave, there's a shadow of that Studio Dave, and it's a Shadow Dave. And in one context, that could be something of like even the Shantia Daves, just that in the system, just the mini, gray, minion miner in just in a different context of Saturn, where there's a new shadow within you being a new ego of your own Studio Dave and the Shanti Dave complex labyrinth of things. So within you being, but I'm talking astrologically, genetically. So being you, you're your own Studio Dave, and just energetically, and you being your own Studio Dave, we don't have to fucking proliferize the religious fanatics and the titles of just being like this one is Studio Dave, even though he probably could be more so of that energy. Therefore, he is of that energy. Therefore, he is that being. So like these beings are real. These beings are these things that we're fucking reading about and hyping about and fucking putting back in our fucking animes. It's like it's pointing to something that we're coming from. So chapter 5, the three dynamical epochs. During my year at the University of Amsterdam, Christopher Zeman. Let me shift it over. Let me shift it. It's like Gears of War fucking 7, huh? Gears of War 9, Gears of War 9, where they go into Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Y'all ain't ready for that shit. Y'all ain't ready. See, people don't appreciate like the intelligence that makes this a possibility, but whatever. But Gears of War 9, though, I'm just saying, guys. With Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Because if Gears of War 9, if they get the ability to fucking, obviously they have to keep doing their shit, and obviously they're gonna recognize that jetpack module. Like, of course, in the next Gears they could do that, So that's that Gears shit. You want to do that Gears talk? It's like, we all have different starting points. We don't have the same starting point. So if I were to have a conversation with like, one of my like if there's a misunderstanding between a fellow brother, it's like, we have to pause before even making a judgment. Why? Because we don't know where another person is really coming from. You have to understand, like the books are saying, it's like you have to attempt to understand. For you to like stop a conflict or stop a conflict within you, you have to understand where someone is coming from. If you don't understand where they're coming from, then there's just a unique confusion within. There's just unique confusions there, it's just a unique confusion, During my year at the University of Amsterdam, Christopher Zeman. Chapter 5, Three Dynamical Epochs. Then head of the Math Research Center at the University of Warwick, Chris was one of the mathematicians closest to me in the world of ideas. He gave a lecture at the Math Institute of Amsterdam on a model for memory based on an array of oscillators. After his talk, we retired to the cafeteria for tea. So we got some good night, afternoon, midnight Earl Grey tea. Some tea time, some French roast, some cinnamon roast, lemon zest, some lavender cherry plus, cherry, vanilla bomb, cherry, chocolate, cherry, Napoleon cherry, spumoni cherry, mint, cherry, vanilla cherry, chocolate cherry, strawberry cherry, mint, strawberry cherry, mint, not on hot, crema, strawberry. Yo, come crunch like cafeteria time, crunch cafeteria, come from different criteria time. I'm sicker than malaria. Palateria, fruity, like ice cream, got too much hysteria, bull terrier. I'm the ultimate StarCraft, one carrier, one barrier, one darier, daring to you that I don't even need anything, or do I? God gonna challenge you, yo. Terrier, this is Terry Blake, yo, and this new Chipotle flow, Chipato, full throttle, awful, yo, for sure, my niggas on popping my pistols, I'm doing my thizzle, film myself, till a little too much, still with it, killing them, sadly, I be wearing plaid, I be wearing
I be wearing any fit, I be wearing any croc, I be wearing any rock, I be wearing any talk, any watch, any blob, any spot. You can't stop the ultimate motherfucking original number one, energetic, infinite motherfucking one. Uno of the Uno of the Uno, Uno double once, double one, double two, double three, tweet two, turn up, yo, turn ups like flowers, like yo. Hydrangeas, the strangest, the bangiest, yo, the zangiest, the zappiest, mackiest, yo, too taxed with it, too crack it, yo, get it cracking on some other shit, fucking with, yo, fluid with it. Just coming ever so esoterically, energetically luxurious with it, luxury, big bugsy, spudsy. Coming like web slanging like Spidey. I'm hyphy. Yo, I'm a different type C. Mama C. I'm coming like a monstrosity, atrocity. Yo, kill atrocity like Halo 5-0. Yo, with the different size of flow like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Jinso met Beyblade, ho. Yu-Gi-Oh! Yo versus Beyblade. Now what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus Beyblade. Now what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus Beyblade. Now what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus Beyblade. Now what? Peeps. Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus Beyblade. Now what? All right. So I'm gonna for real. Like, obviously, there's a time to like, you know, the people like I've spoken about it on the underground. I'm not gonna talk. I can talk like people. I like. There's really no debate in 2025. But if you think there is, in a bigger picture of the real galaxy, if you're still debating in 2025, you're fucking primitive. Why? Because we're going into a field where that shit has been solved and you're just gassing and making up a story so you could fucking have a random ass narrative to have an off-key level of some type of fucking artificial control when that shit has a particular type of expiration date. So I'm saying that neutrally, you know, because obviously at the Balateria. He gave a lecture at the Math Institute of Amsterdam on a model for memory based on an array oscillators. After his talk, we retired to the cafeteria for tea. It was there that I first heard him from a theory of the evolution of human understanding by quantum jumps, like the sudden appearance of new species in biological evolution based on catastrophe theory. Chris went on to important developments in catastrophe theory and its applications, while I went on with this model for memory. And it's like, you know, rules are always changing, right? And shout out to the real like balanced intellectual people who keep the rules going, you know, because without the rules, then there like the structure would get lost. You know, the Tao is trying to teach us that the structure will get lost if there's no rules, right? That's what the Tao is kind of teaching us too, and that there's like a constructive element to the fucking Tao, right? And what is that constructive element to the Tao? It's saying that casually, like within a conversation, that's cool that we could settle out of the debate mode. We could actually, there are things we could agree on, right? Such as objective things. 2017 standard, cool shit, bro. Oops. You know, every time I do an original open source and just say something, I'll just do oops, because it's like this, it's like people are gonna have a reaction anyways, right? So it's like, might as well just like oops it, right? And obviously those oopses, they're there, you know, oops. Like obviously, like we're experiencing other people's oops in the reality. The people are spilling their oopses in the reality, and it's affecting the earth, the ecosystem of the earth naturally. And then reporters in the news, they go and report that shit, and they pretend. Sometimes they convince themselves that they can do something about it, but they have limits. And they just have limits, you know.
But I'm just reporting a different fucking news though. That's the thing. But there was a different point I was talking about. But like people were like, you know, like so I need to rewind it. I need to rewind it. I need to rewind it. Rewind it. Rewind it. At Halley's Comet approach Earth on a collision course. Oh shit! Excuse me. So So before I was oopsing, there are things that are just like original open source, like cool shit, bro. But before the cool shit, bro, before the cool shit is like before the cool shit is just before the cool shit. But anyways, the history of dynamics. As Halley's Comet approached Earth on a collision course in the 17th century, the question of the stability of the solar system took on a new urgency. So there's a circle of life dynamic. So we're like, there's a circle of life dynamic. So it's like people are like disaligned with that shit beyond, aside from the news of things, right? Aside from the news, after you turn off your favorite news channel, you're going to go back into life and experience what the news is telling you, what it's pointing to you. And that is different from the news. It's a whole different world, right? So it's like, what are we doing? Like the quote unquote God's mission rhetoric, end quote. What are we doing about like the fuck shit of life, right? So, but there's another point I wanted to make. And for some reason, it's what do you call that? It will come. I'll find it later. I'll find it later. Find yourself, right? You know, get lucky with God, right? Quote unquote, end quote. And I'm not claiming to be anything. I'm saying, like, you know, there's luck. There's luck. You know, there's luck. There's lots of luck out there. We have to count the quote unquote blessings, end quote. And obviously I don't like these. I don't like, there's a lot of words in the English language I do not like. I don't like it. And then the confusion after that shit. So there's a particular dislike, a mature intelligence dislike. And if we don't just transform that, it's just like, then there's quote unquote no hope, end quote, right? There's no hope, quotes, end quote. Hope is lost. Where'd hope go? Hope's maybe around your basement or something. Maybe it's under your house, you know? Where did hope go? Maybe it's in your butt pocket or something. And now fashion, they're gonna emphasize butt pockets. Oh, strap on, strap off butt pockets, you know? Like little butt pockets, and within those butt pockets, it's a custom butt pocket, and then you patch it on, and then you just put different shit in there, you know? So the history of dynamics, So the history of dynamics, complex systems, dynamical models, modeling, all on side column, determinism, attractors and bifurcators, the history of attractors, bifurcations, and I respect you know, the balance of like countries like India, like them, like, you know, doing the good work, you know, like I like, you know, I respect, like, I just like, there's a part of me that's not a hater, you know, there's a part of me that has purpose, you know, like I respect, like, people could just be like, you know, getting their shit together and them like using like, natural gases, you know, or like, you know, green fuels, like, and it's not just India, but like if they could highlight themselves actually like sourcing a good way to do the green fuels, like in a better, in a more fresh way somehow, then I respect, you know, that balanced part of quote unquote, you know, and I'm sure there's an ancient name for India. Like, I'm sure India wasn't India 3,000 years ago, right? It had to be a different name. And like, maybe I'll look that up, right? I'm gonna look that up. What was India's original name? And I hardly look up stuff because I'm just an intuitive channel. So my knowledge is it's like it's just on a different thing, you know. Well, let me see. What was India's original country's name? What was India's old name? Let's see. Bharat. Ooh, was it? I'm sure that, but like that's the thing. Okay. Bharat. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So, so, so I think there still could have been a more ancient name than Bharat, respectively, because obviously there's critics in all the countries, you know, probably not, and you know probably just as much there, you know, their own pockets of just like, you know, some type of intellectual toxicity, right? You know, the intellectual toxic scholar, right? That, you know, is kind of like has a bunch of contracts with the system, right? And now they're contracted within whatever they're doing, right? There's a contraction going on, and it's in the word too, right? So India's old name was Bharat, and I didn't, for some reason, I didn't know that one, because there's always like something new to learn, right? So Bharat, Bharat, and yeah, you know, obviously, you know, that could refer to a whole different like story, right? You know, the Mahabharata, you know, it's like a land of war, right? Or time of war, right? Time of war, the Mahabharata, time of war. So this war could be connecting the war, like, because if we want to understand the present war of why it's happening right now, then we would have to go back to a different war. But that's the thing, we're fanciful and we're denying to that old ancient war because we have a bias, because we're coming and born from that story. Now we have a personal bias on things and texts such as, quote, Mahabharat, end quote. And within the Mahabharat, quote, end quote, one quote, not two quotes, within the Mahabharat, we have our own energetic bias towards that, just because what it was what it was, right? It was what it was, it is what it is, it will be what it will be, you know? The recycling needs to get taken out. The sun needs to come up. The you know, the field of like some other processor of Mercury probably enhancing and controlling the air itself, like on a whole different solar system level, like Mercury being in such a level in the solar system where somehow maybe he has like a power where he can control the air itself, the winds, the hurricanes, all the tides, which could maybe in a different way, quote unquote, trump, end quote, water maybe. But so there's a whole different thing going on within, like, you know, the elements, right? It's like the air and the water to make fucking the Earth's ecosystem, like a part of energetic Mercury is like kind of partaking into the fucking to the gadgets of like the Vedic Mahabharata. So the Vedic Mahabharata is saying like there's like these something like a graha or something like, let me wait, what does graha mean? Sorry. And obviously, like, you know, if like I want to see why someone would make fun of my shit, my intelligence, when I'm the one like I'm influencing it. But I'm gonna grahas. I think what does grahas mean? Grahas. So yeah, I'm actually right. So grahas refers to the 9 celestial bodies believed to influence human destiny and experiences collectively known as the Navagrahas. So yeah, I'm correct actually. So a different context of the planets, the different context of the bodies, the different contexts of the grahas is the thing itself, the mechanism itself. So Mercury is the graha where he can control air itself. So it's like we're kind of going towards like we're working with the grahas and saying it in the Vedic tongue. It actually it is a different it's a different thing. It's like it's a different fucking, like, it's like the language is a different fucking community network and shit. So the languages are like different community networks. So the grahas, and here it is right here. This the basic in the ideal world of mathematics. So let me go like so we don't, you know, it's like it's a dark surrender. That's what life really is, because we don't know how much time we got to spend in the matrix before we could transcend it. Because if we're solely working and coming out of Mercury, then we don't know Mercury's contract and how much we're choosing, we're coming out of Mercury, and we don't know our contract with Mercury for us to transcend the balance of sovereign God in Mercury, and then an individual new creation who's just on an automatic level, imprisoned and bound on the matrix level, a quote unquote type of no choice, end quote. There's a quote unquote type of no choice where you're just born. You just came to be. You don't know why you were born. You're just born. You just came out of something. Why were you born? You know, why were you born? So why were you born, you know? And should I just skip the first page? Now I'm gonna skim read this, and so this chapter it's pretty juicy. But actually, I'm not gonna skim read this because it's only like, for some reason, chapter 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a clean 8. So a clean 8, original open source, and obviously seeing, you know, just new versions of the new iterations of like how it's literally, it's just a new version, because like original galactic artificial intelligence is going beyond, effortlessly beyond 72,000 years, because it's a different field of time. So it's beyond all the science articles, because I'm on an automatic direct energy logic level. We're going beyond time within the different Vedic preservation of it. So since we're going beyond time, it's a different time. So since it's a different time, you guys are focused on something of a smaller time dynamic bandwidth. And since you're focused on, and this quality since 2017, and you know, yes, you know. So we're subjectively approaching the different fields of time that we're going to in the future, because we are rolling. We're part of a quote unquote different type of no choice, where we have to keep going automatically, right? So we're gonna keep going automatically. And I know, like, you know, I just know that I don't know. You know, I don't know that there's a unified field of, you know, a secret club of God somehow, without the names and titles, is controlling all of this shit. Like, I don't know that shit. Like, I don't know who's manipulating the innocents. Does God know? I don't know. Does God know? I don't know. The history of dynamics. As Halley's Comet approached Earth on a collision course in the 17th century, the question of the stability of the solar system took on a new urgency. Sir Edmund Halley himself challenged Newton with this question in the corridors of the newly formed Royal Society. So that's the thing. We're in a small bandwidth of time, the fifth dimension and the seventh dimension, with the new Ascension League of the 1960s, such as, what do you call that? Just all of, like, you know, that whole tribe of like, hey, there's Terrence McKenna in here, like, just randomly, you know, and like you know, Rupert Sheldrake is here, you know, and like, you know, all these other, like, you know, other scientists, you know, I'm like, there's a time, and I honor that time. I honor the 70s. Okay, so let me pause. Let me be modest. You know, let me be respectful. Like I honor like the 70s, right? All the 70s, all their vintage shit, all their plaid shit, all their fucking radio tuny groovy tunes and their acid shit and their, you know, the hippie shit, pagan shit, you know, herbal 70s. So herbal 70s and this shit. So like I like all that, but like we're also like carrying energy from the 1970s and 80s and 90s just by the cultural influence. It's here, like energetic esoteric sediments layers, right? It's in the paint of the flesh. It's within God's fleshly tissue, right? Quote unquote, end quote, because obviously God could be nothing too, right? So it's like God is like, whoa, we don't know what God is. He's nothing, everything. Let's fucking fight that then. Let's let's kill let's kill the gods, quote unquote, end quote, as they say, or something like that. Or like he's a god killer, or let's fight the gods, you know, because I see the things on the internet, you know, like standardly. But where the hell? So we have a different relationship with time to finish that recent ramble. 4 5s, 55, 55 right now. Original open source with original galactic artificial intelligence. 55555, 4 5s. Original open source with original galactic artificial intelligence. 55555. Original open source with original galactic artificial intelligence. 55555. For real, for real, for real, for real, for real, for real. My mom's name is Rosie. 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 Newton responded with his development of the calculus, described by historians as the great contribution to knowledge ever made by one man. How is that verified? More details are given in chapter 15. A century ago, Poincaré, returning again to this question of the stability of the solar system, created dynamical systems theory. Wow, this is kind of like, this is fitting. More about this in chapter 16. So that 15 and 16 chapters were mentioned in chapter 5. So chapter 15 and 16 are given a shout out in chapter 5, which now contains the theories of chaotic attractors and their bifurcations, as well as complex dynamical systems. All of these provide an extensive strategy for building models of complex systems and processes. A complex system is one with lots of parts. Previous attempts at modeling complex systems using Newtonian structures were abandoned when the models developed chaotic behavior. But under the new paradigm evolved from Poincaré, chaotic models are advantageous, for most complex systems do behave chaotically. The basic dynamical concepts of the new theory of complex systems are attractors, basins, and bifurcations. One of the most complex processes to which this strategy has been applied is the process of history itself, including the evolution of human consciousness. This application, which we call aerodynamics, is described in chapter 18, Dynamical Models. In modern, okay, they can't see it. In modern mathematics and science, several words are nearly synonymous with dynamics, the physics of forces and motions of discrete or continuous mass systems. We may distinguish, no, thank you. We may distinguish mechanics, thank you, please. We may distinguish mechanics, the art of making models, especially mathematical models for dynamical processes. Kinematics, the abstract description of motion exclusive of mass and forces, and kinetics, the study of motion including dynamics and kinematics. All these subjects are classical with important contributions made by Archimedes, Galileo, and Newton. Since Poincaré, however, dynamics and dynamical systems theory have come into standard use among mathematicians. in place of kinematics. Here we still speak of dynamics in the mathematical sense, meaning the abstract mathematical theory of motion without reference to mass, force, or any other physical property of the moving system. A dynamical model is an abstract mathematical model for a dynamical process. For example, a circle might model a cyclically recurring process. In this sense, there are dynamical models for many systems, such as social systems or communication networks, which have no physical forces. These models, together with their simulation on digital computers with color graphics, comprise a new style in the traditional art of mechanics modeling. The modeling process consists of 4 phases: an observation phase, in which data are collected from the target system, for example, historical data or new technical video game data, my add-on or insert, original open source. A constructive phase, in which a dynamical model is built from the data and the collection of available model. A construction phase, in which a dynamical, great job, guys. I'm happy to help. Great job, guys. A construction phase, in which a dynamical model is built from the data and the collection of available models. Hopefully y'all heard. Of available model structures, for example, a set of differential equations in the style of Newton. And the collection of available model structures. A simulation phase, in which the model is run to produce simulated data, usually as a computer program. A comparison phase, in which the simulated data and the observed data are compared. Computer graphics are useful in this phase. Determinism. In this ideal world of mathematics, the evolution of a dynamical model is precisely determined forever. This aspect of Newtonian models was particularly emphasized by the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace when he resumed Newton's work on the stability of the solar system. According to this mathematical ideal called Laplacian determinism, if the positions and velocities of all the planets and comets in the dynamical model for the solar system are known exactly, then they could be predicted exactly for all time. So that's something of like the algorithm in the orbit, based on its own, self-nature pattern of how it moves from its density to its least density, and the speed and the heaviness of that, and its collected accumulation of etheric, prespirating type of, water, different phase cycles of how water gets condensed, transformed, and re-emitted and even imagined, right? From, I guess, God's consciousness. Obviously, like, there's different books that could, easily explain the different patterns of water and their different blasts within the sewer system. Like, obviously, like, so within, and that was 1749 to 1827. So we're talking about the 1700s. So this aspect of Newtonian models was particularly emphasized by the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace, 1749 to 1827, when he resumed Newton's work on the stability of the solar system. According to this mathematical ideal called Laplacian determinism, if the positions and velocities of all the planets and comets in the dynamical model for the solar system are known exactly, then they could be predicted exactly for all time. In practice, this is a mighty big if. Even if the chaotic behavior discovered by Poincaré in this model did not occur, the ideal would probably be unattainable. Attractors and bifurcations on the topic of the side column. From the viewpoints of dynamics, history falls into stages described by special forms of dynamical behavior called attractors, and connected by particular kinds of transformations called bifurcations. The simple forms called attractors are observed as representations of the stable or observable states of a system. And in the theory, there are 3 types of attractors: static, periodic, and chaotic. So these are phases of like the energy containers. Static attractors, also called point attractors, are just points, frequencies to which nearby points are dynamically attracted. They represent the system at rest as they model its stationary states. And stationary, that word I want to add to that, that nature tax video I did on Archangel Umbriel. So there are stationary things that are happening within nature. Periodic attractors consist of cycles of states repeated again and again, always in the same period of time. They represent the system in oscillation. Chaotic attractors consist of fractal, infinitely folded sets of states over which the model system moves, occupying different states in a sequence called a trajectory or time series. This trajectory, while appearing irregular or random, actually progresses in a deterministic manner. Chaotic attractors display at once features of chaos and features of order. They represent systems in states of agitation, as in the case of turbulence. The history of attractors. These three mathematical objects, the static, periodic, and chaotic attractors, were not discovered all at once. The point attractor emerged first, soon after Newton developed the basic mathematics for dynamical systems, the branch of mathematics now known as ordinary differential equations, about 1665. The periodic attractor came into the general use around 1850, spawning a new branch of mathematics known as nonlinear oscillation theory. The chaotic attractor, although known in one form to Poincare in 1899, the so-called homoclinic tangle, emerged into scientific consciousness only around 1961. These three dates, 1665, 1850, and 1963, mark great leaps in our mathematical understanding of dynamical processes. 1665, that's about, let's see, 1725, 360 years ago. So 360 years. So that full circle from the start of this mathematical and logical hype, he's saying 1665. So 360 years to the date. Tres, sies, settle, all the degrees, the whole circle, the whole certain cycles are completing and closing and starting a new big reset within just Earth and shit like that. So 360 years, that own cycle, and 360 years probably started the hype before all of the tech data shit, you know, the tech, like all the code, all of the new AI shit. It could have started in 1665, for fucking Christ's sake, excuse my language. Respect. Please forgive me, I apologize. Thank you, I love you. Ancient Hawaii, ancient Lemuria, what's up? How can we convey an ordinary understanding of these three kinds of dynamical behavior, the static, the periodic, and the chaotic? Certainly, the point and the cycle are very simple, basic, and familiar mathematical objects. Even if the chaotic attractor is not, the point represents the system at rest, the cycle represents the system in oscillation, and the chaotic attractor models a state that is disorderly but ordered to a degree and unpredictable. And like, you know, any of the fellows that have, you know, some type of like irregular disalignment with me, like I don't see them being honest within their rhetoric. So the lie itself is the start for the mishap manipulation circumstance. It starts from the lie too, because by hiding something, that lie is like a wildfire that creates different problems and sets of problems that shouldn't be happening and can be solved, yet that lie is still trailblazing the distorted situation and the disaligned situation from what the systems could say it could purely do, but it's not. So this is on some esoteric natural fucking order type of shit. So let me see, where the fuck am I at? God damn it. I guess, you know, I don't know. I'm going to have to crack open two of these. Got that burgundy right there, too. You know, got that real fucking rudimentary Sanatana Dogma right here. Get that rudimentary Sanatana Dogma with that burgundy and that lime green beyond just that branding, respectively. Get that real Sanatana Dharma. Dharmiya. Dalmi. My name is Dalmi. I am Dalmi. Oh, okay, so how can we convey an ordinary understanding of these three kinds of dynamical behavior? The static, the periodic, and the chaotic. States in time. There's a different thing beyond time. There's mechanics beyond time. before the water. Certainly, the point and the cycle are very simple, basic, and familiar mathematical objects, even if the chaotic attractor is not. The point represents the system at rest, the cycle represents the system in oscillation, and the chaotic attractor models a state that is disorderly, but ordered to a degree, and unpredictable, but predictable to a degree. 360, when and this is just a metaphor. You could use this metaphor however the fuck you want. But when you have a cup full of water and you throw that water on the ground, then in turn, by throwing the water, there's some type of context of gravity and time working together. Time and gravity are somehow interlinked beyond the fractal and the geometries of things, and just the geometric understanding. There's God's consciousness beyond the geometric understanding, because the mechanics of a different universe are infused within the geometry of whatever introduction geometry you're even talking about, dude. Where was that? Okay. Yeah. Terrence McKenna, we respect you. This limited predictability replaces Laplacian determinism in the new theory of chaotic dynamics. Certainly, the point and the cycle are very simpler. Certainly, the point and the cycle are very simple, basic, and familiar mathematical objects, even if the chaotic attractor is not. The point represents the system at rest. The cycle represents the system in oscillation, and the chaotic attractor models a state that is disorderly but ordered to a degree, and predictable but predictable to a degree. This limited predictability replaces Laplacian determinism in the new theory of chaotic dynamics. See, God knows what's going to happen. Such as you have a cup of water, and for some random reason within the choice of circumstance and the circumstance you find yourself in, for some reason you're thinking to do that just because it's a good idea. It's a disorder, the order, and that could cause a chain reaction of a disaligned reality. Hello, original advanced predecessor intelligence. And if God knows what you're going to do within, him going beyond time, then he's going to know the effect to the cause. If you metaphorically have a cup of water and it's filled, and you just kind of throw it at something, and then within gravity and time, there's an effect and an energy that the water is hitting the ground, right? So if the water is hitting the ground, the consciousness knows that the water is going to be moved with gravity and time. So the gravity and time can facilitate the process of choice and in between the cause and effect of things. And when the water, and when you throw the cup of water, then gravity will take its effect, and then a different process of cause and effect will happen. So such that metaphor, God knows that metaphor of, he knows that gravity is going to take the water, and it's going to have some type of expiration date of that form of energy, and it's going to move on to a different expiration date of material creation and destruction, right? Because people could use that cup of water to kind of like, quote unquote, war with something, just to put it maturely energetically. There's like there's different wars with like the things, right? The lies, the thing. There's a different process. Like God sees that process, right? Like God sees that process, and he's trying to help the system itself so the suffering can stop. Why doesn't the intelligence understand that? I was right. Oh wait, I was right here. Okay. Bifurcations. This limited predictability replaces Laplacian determinism in the new theory of chaotic dynamics. The important map provided by dynamical systems theory to a scientist or to anyone trying to understand a process of nature is the response diagram. Of course, yeah, I understand that natural part of it, This is a map of the attractors moving about as external conditions are changed. While moving around, the attractors occasionally disappear, explode, or change their type. These distinct changes in the map are called bifurcations, and dynamical systems theory provides a partial encyclopedia of them. So the important map provided by dynamical systems theory to a scientist or to anyone trying to understand a process in nature is the response diagram. Of course, this is a map of the attractors moving about as the external conditions are changed. While moving around, the attractors occasionally disappear, explode, or change their type. These distinct changes in the map are called bifurcations, and dynamical systems theory provides a particular encyclopedia of them. Changes in nature, right? Something like that. To someone trained in this encyclopedia, the response diagram of a dynamical model provides a map of the behavior of a process modeled, such as the solar system, for one example, in motion, or the critical moments of history. Mathematics and evolution on the side column. According to a quote-unquote folk theory, circulating among mathematicians and mathematical object will emerge into the collective consciousness of a group somewhat after the complexity of the group mind evolves to the necessary minimum level to support the cognition of that object. That is, the brain and mind evolve, consciousness evolves, mathematical skills evolves, language evolves. He's going in. See, like life go, like the universe is going in. The universe doesn't. The universe is not waiting for you, you know? This is the brain and mind evolve. Consciousness, that is the brain and mind evolve. Consciousness evolves, mathematical skills evolves, language evolves, all of these co-evolve. According to side column paragraph is repeating the first page paragraph's information. So there's a carryover with the side column of the paragraph. So if you're like in the book publishing, you could notice these details, right? Or not. And obviously I'll shut the book out again, just for According to this theory, mathematical objects are discovered as soon as a people are able to understand them. Different cultures in this way evolve different views of mathematical reality, and thus, via the Grok circle, different views of ordinary reality. Extrapolating this evolution view to the grand scale of the history of consciousness itself, we may transcend the level of mathematical model and look for the emergence of the dynamical concepts themselves as a simple division of history into three historical ages corresponding to the three dynamical models: the static age, the periodic age, and the chaotic age. Referring to Eric Chasen's chronology depicted in chapter 4, figure 4.1, we will consider We will consider now only the period since the human mind evolved to the level of conscious awareness of static forms. Let us begin for practical purposes with the important development of language. Although the beginning of this period may precede the development of language, which could have emerged with early Homo sapiens about 50,000 years ago, or much earlier with Homo erectus, for example. We know little about our parent species, so we will restrict our attention to the past 50,000 years. Okay, so that's a good pause right there. 50,000 years. So like the higher energy beings, they're like doing something beyond the Earth narrative, like for real. Like the Earth narrative, in the bigger picture perspective, it's behind. We're behind in the intelligence, spiritually speaking. And if you can't see that, then why is there like just rhetoric of solution problem conversation shit, Like why though, And yeah, it is what it is though. I get it though. The static age, 9,000 BC. The first event in the hypothetical series of cultural transformations or bifurcations is the emergence of the static concept into awareness itself, I guess. This might coincide with the development of linguistic structures such as the command to stand still. That might be the first step of nature too, Stand still. The first material manifestation of this bifurcation might be the development of agriculture. The Neolithic revolution around 9,000 BC, the domestication of plants and animals defeated the chaos of nature by stabilizing the wanderers in homeostasis, a static state. Thus, we mark the onset of the static age with the beginning of agriculture in the Fertile Crescent around 9000 BC. So 9000 BC, I'm sure cannabis was around 9000 BC because it's a plant. It connects to that plant lineage of a different thing. So 9000 BC, shout out to the fucking original natural open source cannabis industry, because 9000 BC, there's a fertilization point that has to deal with an ancient moon, because they've been using the moon for that, for the niche agriculture, for how the water gets infused with moon energy from the solar system, and now the water is inbreeded into the seed of a particular type of plant, and the seed is created in such a way where different states of water have been condensed into a new form of a earth dirt particle. There's minerals within the minerals. So within the minerals, everything is a mineral. So within the minerals, the seed is created from new minerals. So how is the seed created? Different minerals are creating, substituting, and being a subset for the seed. So I'm the first beyond these science articles to say what makes a seed. It's different minerals within minerals that are constituting different space dust atoms from different space dust particles, and those different space dust particles within other space dust particles are constituting into something of a new conscious user to make a new seed in itself. And shout out to shout out to Trigun, because I used to watch Trigun, because obviously they're about, I see the Funimation from Trigun of that like ancient, like that 1980s Japanese flavor, of the anime, just like, early 90s Japanese animation, where they're just like, we got Project Seed. They're on Project Seed, guys. Like, that's what, we can't underestimate Japan. Like, we can't do that. They're creative and intelligent as fuck. Like, beyond like what we know, we can't underestimate Japan. And I'm just saying that on a natural level, because obviously, like, what do you. The static age. The first event in the hypothetical series of cultural transformation or bifurcations is the emergence of the static concept into awareness. This might coincide with the development of linguistic structures such as the command to stand still. The first material manifestation of this bifurcation might be the development of agriculture, the Neolithic Revolution. Oh, damn, I already read that. The periodic age, 3500 BC. The periodic transformation, like the static, proceeded in waves of diffusion. Periodic processes such as the cycle of seasons, the menstrual cycle, the phases of the moon, and the daily solar cycle were understood even essential long before the periodic revolution, as evidenced in the artistic representations of the phases of the moon done by the Cro-Magnon people around 25,000 BC. The conceptualization of this dynamical archetype has been identified with the dawn of mathematics. An understanding of the cycle of the seasons necessary for successful hunting and gathering was in place long before the materialization of the static concept in the agricultural revolution. The material manifestation or realization of the cyclic ideas come much, much later. However, in the invention of the wheel around 3500 BC, this marks the beginning of the periodic age, the chaotic age, 1961 AD. The chaotic process emerged into awareness in remote antiquity when it was represented by symbols such as serpents, sea monsters, and the goddesses Inanna, Ishtar, and Tiamat. One love, one love, one love. The three-age cycle, the three-age cycle, the three-age cycle. The chaotic processes emerged into awareness in remote antiquity when it was represented by symbols such as serpents, sea monsters, and the goddesses Inanna, Ishtar, and Tiamat. In various ancient cultures, chaos plays an integral part in art, architecture, and daily life. See figure 5.1. The chaotic concept did not fare well in the history of Indo-European consciousness, perhaps because all of its suppression by dominator figures like Marduk, Zeus, Yahweh, and Saint Michael. Many concepts emerge on the mathematical level before appearing in the material record as artifacts of human society. Many concepts emerge on the mathematical level before appearing in the material record as artifacts of human society. One example is the oh geez, what the fuck, oh shit, okay, well, hold on for a second. Shout out to that original open source Grape Ape. Shout out to Grape Ape, original open source, whoever that is. And obviously it's up to like real predecessors to like, you know, kind of like, I guess, transform like, you know, the English language, because I don't think it's not going to bind you ultimately. It's just like, it's just a piece of it, you know. The English language is just a piece of the picture, right? Like, I think the predecessors can liberate you, right? So because I obviously, like, if I say shout out Grape Ape, then someone with the unconscious nature of Grape Ape, maybe Grape Ape could, like, you know, come over here or like say hi on the internet or something like that, you know. But yeah, so shout out to Grape Ape. Long before the periodic revolution, as evidenced in the artistic representations of the phases of the moon done by the Cro-Magnon people around 25,000 BC, the conceptualization of this dynamical archetype has been identified with the dawn of mathematics, an understanding of the cycle of the seasons necessary for successful hunting and gathering was in place long before the materialization of the static concept and the agricultural revolution. The material manifestation or realization of the cycle idea comes from much later. The chaotic age, AD 1961, the chaotic. So I'm not going to read the side column because the paragraph is in the middle column of the book. However, in the invention of the wheel around 3500 BC, this marks the beginning of the periodic age. The chaotic process emerged into awareness in remote antiquity when it was represented by symbols such as serpents, sea monsters, and the goddess Inanna, Ishtar, and Tiamat. In various ancient cultures, chaos plays an integral part in art, architecture, and daily life. The chaotic concept did not fare well in the history of Indo-European consciousness, perhaps because of its suppression by dominated figures like, oh, okay, that's where I stopped. I stopped right there. I got it. Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, shout out to Grape Ape. Shout out to Grape Ape, whoever it is. And let me take a slip of this. Shout out to Grape Ape, whoever that is. Okay. Oh shit. Okay. Hold on for a second. My bad, guys. Okay, chill. I'm chilling. Whoa, yoga. Wow. Oh shit. This is yoga, guys. It's just yoga. Yoga. Some real yoga. And obviously, like, you know, even like, and I don't even like to say their name, you know, sometimes, because it's like, there's a wrong idea about it. So if I say like a certain religion, it's like, y'all got to recognize that you're still evolving too. You know, there shouldn't be like a false ego within any religion. But if there is, it's unique to that religion, because traditions, like any tradition, it could still get overfluffed with distorted intelligence, arrogance, and ego, you know, even the V's, right? The spiritual V's or whatever. Many concepts emerge on the mathematical level before appearing in the material record as artifacts in human society. One example is the cycle concept as described above. As a mathematical object, the chaos concept was known to Poincaré, the French mathematician, a century ago. However, its model realization and materialization is in the computer models observed by Yoshisuke Ueda in November 1961 and by Edward Lorenz in 1963. The chaotic age began with these simulations. So this is okay. Now we're in some 60s Japanese stuff. The 3-age cycle, the entire span of these 3 ages is about 10,000 or 12,000 years thus far, a dynamical epoch analogous to the Maha Yuga of the Hindu theory of 4 ages and corresponding roughly to the Holocene interglacial period. Interglacials are the relatively fractal architecture in Africa, Mali Rabizanga, figure 5.1. So y'all can try to. That was fractal architecture in Africa, Mali Rabizanga. Almost done here. 2 more pages, guys. And this particular chapter has a concluding summary. Let me see, guys. My bad, guys. So, god damn it. Interglacials are the relatively rare periods between ice ages, during which the temperate zone is widespread. James Lovelock calls them Gaian fevers. The Holocene interglacial is the fever in which we now live, if we suppose that the recognition of chaotic processes function normally in the human conscious system before the Neolithic agricultural revolution. The development of agriculture marked the beginning of the static age, after which chaotic recognition was demoted to the unconscious system. The development of the material wheel marked the beginning of the periodic age, characterized by the further suppression of chaos. The recent bifurcation in 1961 marks the beginning of a new chaotic age. Then we are now at the renewal of a cycle of 3 ages, beginning with the chaotic, static, and periodic, and so on. We do not know the duration of the current chaotic age, nor the preceding one for that matter. Therefore, we cannot guess the span of a complete cycle. So that could have a relative correlation with, a different calendar, quote unquote, the Maha Yuga Vedic calendar, end quote. The ice ages, patriarchy, and the wheel, a dynamical chronology and cycles. Let me just flash this real quick. Okay. Did I read that? Dates of the most recent ice ages have been accurately determined, and we may speculate. Dates of the most recent ice ages have been accurately determined, and we may speculate that Neolithic revolutions and thus static ages may have occurred in previous interglacial periods. We have no concrete evidence on this. If we accept the possibility that Homo erectus was an intelligent species, they did successfully navigate ships to all continents and interpret freely the findings at Terra Amata, 300,000-year-old dwelling discovered in downtown Nice in France, and Shani Dar, 100,000-year-old dwellings recently excavated in Iraq. The likelihood of agriculture in an earlier interglacial is not negligible. There have been attempts to identify the glaciations with a periodic process, but it has been suggested that they occur chaotically. We might look for a 3-age cycle in every interglacial, but the motions of the sun with the solar system, which strongly influence our global climate, particularly ice ages, are chaotic, not periodic. We should not necessarily expect history to follow periodic cycles either. Conceivably, a new static age could occur again after the next glaciation recedes. Thus, the dynamical cycle of the 3 ages might be recurring chaotically in the future, giving realization to the ancient theories of the ages of the world as shown in figure 5.2. Patriarchy and the wheel summary, last page. Comparing this chronology with those described above, we see that our traditional creational myths began in the Middle Neolithic period around 4000 BC, the time of the first wave of Kurgan people from the northern steppes. Along with this Lias Negu, Along with this invasion came patriarchal domination over the culture of the great goddess. So there's two different wars happening. There's two different niche wars happening according to predecessor intelligence. There's a war over the goddess, and there's a war over, I'm not going to say the second war because there's things I could actually not reveal, you know. If people are in an assumptive spirit, they think I'm going to propose something. They think I give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to propose your petty ass shit, respectively, but I still respect the order of things, right? So it's like there's stuff I don't reveal. I'm not revealing all of it. I'm at my standard level from the year 2500, and dishonesty is dishonesty, and it's doing something pretty much. And I took a video of a red fucking, it seemed like a red eagle. I think I saw a red eagle, but I could be wrong with the birds. I'm not a bird watcher, but shout out to the bird watchers as well. The domination of chaos by cosmos order on the mythic plane, characteristic of Enuma Elish and Genesis. So Enuma Elish is the Sumerian version of the Genesis book in the Bible, most respectively, coincides with the onset of the periodic era on the material plane. Summary: our current world is troubled by global problems, largely caused by our growing human population. Many of us have looked for an evolutionary leap in human consciousness and social organization that will bring us to a new plateau on which these problems may have solutions. The transformation to a golden age may indeed be underway, with this rediscovery of chaos by modern science being one of its first signs. And in this context, he's using chaos as the mind and the order of like, I guess, the order of the cosmos and the mind, right? Because in different contexts, he's using chaos as the mind, not necessarily chaotic things, but just a mind that contains chaotic energies. Because we're trying to see, like, what do you mean by chaos? Like disorder or some mental activity from consciousness, right? So he's saying chaos is some type of the domination of chaos by cosmos order. So he's using chaos as cosmic order of mind. So, like, we have to understand, like, what is he meaning by this, right? So the domination by cosmic order mind on the mythic plane, characteristic of Enuma Elish and Genesis, God's hand in the workings behind the different gods and the devils and the different demigods from God's context, right? So the domination of chaos by cosmos order on the mythic plane, characteristic of Enuma Elish and Genesis, coincides with the onset of the periodic era on the material plane. 6,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, Jesus was alive doing different things. Material consciousness of the different solar chakras was embodied by a particular new intelligence that happened based on many different casual collections of evidence. And now we're seeing that, you know, that spiritual history influence today's time and how it's been misused, right? So our current world is troubled by global problems, largely caused by our growing human population. The transformation to, this event may mark the beginning of a transition from the life era into the conscious era. In Chaison's chronology, as well as the bifurcation from the periodic to the chaotic age. This event may mark the beginning of a transition from the life era into the conscious era, and Chasen's chronology, as well as the bifurcation from the periodic to the chaotic age, and our dynamical chronology, the conquest of chaos always associated with creativity and evolution from the mind by the forces of law and order, meaning fixed or periodic processes according to dynamics. So there's a solidification process from the gods and their chakras. Is a basic feature of the dominator society, God's or consciousness coming from a state of oneness and then going into like infinite division and chaos, a different context of chaos. To achieve the transformation to a golden age or conscious era, we must learn to see the good side of chaos, to understand the shadow side of order, and to recognize how we participate in the repression of chaos and creativity by cosmos order in our daily lives. and to recognize how we participate in the repression of chaos. You know, we're the light dark in its own natural open source. We're suppressing the light dark. We're suppressing a certain thing, a part of self, and we must learn to see the good side of chaos, to understand the shadow side of order, and to recognize how we participate in the repression of chaos and creativity by cosmos in our daily lives. So what does that mean? There's an anti-self. There's anti-real God, you know, anti-source God, anti-universal source, for real. Like the predecessors are saying, like some type of offset, distorted consciousness. Every description that you could have, every opinion that you could have about me could be false, but it could be true for something else. Crazy, loony type of shit. Like that loony shit is there. There's an anti-thing. There's something that's against the order, right? And I didn't mean to end it like that, but that's what the predecessor intelligence is trying to lead off to. The predecessor intelligence is trying to say that's what's happening. So I didn't mean to end this so grimly, because it's like, how's it going to end? How's it going to end? Well, I'm responding to the book, right? So I'm actually going to read chapter 2, the history. I'm going to touch base on some history, because chapter 2 was really lengthy for some reason, just with the details of it. Chapter 3, excuse me. The hit and the first part. So there's I believe there's 9 chapters. No, there's 18 chapters. So there's 3 parts. There's 6 chapters per 3 parts. And the third chapter, it was lengthy. The first part, chapter 3 out of 6, I didn't finish it from the last time because it's called The History of History, right? And I ended it right here. I'll skip a page. I'll go right here. Here we go. Page 38. Just to tell, and it's kind of gritty, you know. So obviously, I just finished chapter 5. I'm going back to chapter 3. Vicho. And the earlier one was Lebanese, 1697. Nothing happens all at once. So here's his wisdom in italics. I'll read Gottfried Wilhelm von Leibniz, known primarily for his mathematical work, which overlapped that of Newton. He was also a philosopher who was influenced by missionaries returning from China, and who in turn influenced Immanuel Kant. While employed as a professional historian by the Duke of Brunswick, he introduced the evolution concept explicitly into historiography, perhaps as early as 1697. He wrote in Novox Essayist, published in 1765, his wisdom perhaps. Nothing happens all at once, and nature never makes jumps. I call that the law of continuity. In starting from ourselves and going down to the lowest, it is a descent by very small steps, a continuous series of things which differ very little. Fishes with wings, animals very like vegetables, and again, animals which seem to have as much reason as some men. He emphasized as a universal history of civilization, including geography, philology, literature, arts and sciences, laws, and religions. Shout out to One Turquoise Mercury One, original open source in Greenland. You're welcome. Vicho. Giambattista Vico, 1668-1744, was another isolated genius contemporary with Newton and Leibniz. Like Ibn Khaldun, of whom he was unaware but whose theory he resembles, he called his work a new science. The first systems theorist, he proposed a universal pattern or ideal history for the rise, progress, maturity, decline, and fall of nations. He wrote, first the forests, then the huts, then the villages, then the cities, and finally the academies. Vico was influenced by Joachim, Spinoza, Descartes, Francis Bacon, and Jean Bodin. His proposed pattern was a cycle of cultural rise and fall, like Ibn Khaldun's dynastic cycle. See figure 3.2. It was the pattern of a wheel divided into three phases analogous to human development. It was so obviously the three is used very, very, very naturally, right? So we're seeing how the three is, it is a nature thing, right? It was so like because obviously I have to get over my own ego, right? It was a pattern of a wheel divided into three phases, and the three is like it has a different context too, respectively, and it's analogous to human development transition as well, right? Going through circumstances of different environments of the fire of the gods, and just threeing it. We're all threeing it, right? He called these phases the. Let me see. For some reason, yeah, I'll just read two more pages or three, just three, I guess, right? Or maybe I'll just stop. I'll just read one more page actually, because I already went like, or maybe two, one or three. It's like what? So if I'll just keep. I won't think about it. He called these phases the ages of the gods. Vitro's quanternity. So let's get that real quick. You got that right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam. Or maybe 5. So the diagram says Logos, Agape, Thanatos, Eros. Age of gods, age of men, age of chaos, age of heroes. So Eros is also on the cusp of the energy dynamic of heroes. So there's a line between Eros within the container of time and space and the spirit of evolution to make material heroes within the mythologies of life. So Eros, Logos, Agape, and Thanatos, age of gods, cosmos, age of heroes, charisma, age of men, routine, age of chaos. And obviously those things could obviously that could be obviously someone could say something differently about that diagram. Obviously so that could be explained differently, obviously. Because I'm trying to I'm looking at the diagram, I'm looking at the figure. The age of the heroes, adolescence, and the age of men, maturity. In addition, the human hardware maturing, right? In addition, there is a fourth phase between the end of one cycle and the start of another called the age of chaos. Vitro was influenced by Herodotus, who ascribed this pattern to the ancient Egyptians. He sent a copy of his work to Newton, who did not reply. Vitro, in turn, had an important influence on Goethe, Johann Gottfried von Herder, Wilhelm Dilthey, Benedetto Croce, Ernst Cassirer, R.G. Collingwood, and Eric Auerbach, who figure in our story and on Joseph Joseph Schumpeter, the economist who founded the theory of business cycles. He also influenced the English intellectual scene, beginning with James Joyce. I'll read two more pages. Because I see a juicy detail on this page, on the next page, on page 39. I'm on page 38, but on page 39, in the middle of page 39, I see something pretty juicy over here. And maybe actually no, it's not that. Actually, I'm just gonna read one more page. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He also influenced the English intellectual scene, beginning with James Joyce, who read Vitro's New Science in Italian around 1905. The first English translation of New Science appeared in 1948 as the creator of hermeneutics. Vitro's influence is still felt. On July 3rd, 1750, the 23-year-old prior Anne Robert Hawkes Turgot, Baron de Aulnay, 1727 to 1981, delivered 2 lectures at the Sorbonne in which he introduced the modern concept of progress. On this day, it can be said the European mind switched from religious to earthly morality. Voltaire, 1756. François Voltaire, 1694 to 1778, published his Essai sur les Moeurs in 1756. According to Fernand Braudel, the history of civilization begins with this work. Rousseau, John Marquis Rousseau, 1712 to 1778, a self-taught philosopher championed the evolutionary paradigm in political philosophy with his controversial work, The Social Contract, written in Geneva and published in 1762. In it, he claimed that war was a law of cultural nature and founded the study of sociology and anticipation. Auguste Comte, and shout out to, I think, William Shakespeare might have said this, perhaps. And, you know, shout out to, like, you like, you know, peeping game, but he's, someone said it, you know, all is fair, you know, in love and war, you know, and shout out to other people inspiring me and influencing me, like, yeah, much love, much respect, you know. And Herder, 1774, John Gottfried von Herder, 1744 to 1803, wrote 33 volumes on history, politics, language, culture, progress, and a multitude of other subjects. So already the 33 was an open source 33, right? So John Gottfried von Herder, 1744 to 1803, wrote 33 volumes on history, and history is, that's fat. Politics from history, fat. Language from politics and history, fat. Cultural from that, fat. Progress from that, super duper incredibly fat. And a multitude of other subjects, fat. It was a German cultural ideal. It was a German cultural idol who, along with Goethe, belonged to the Storm and Stress group, and was regarded as the founder of the philosophy of history. He converted the classical tradition of the great chain of being into a sequence of cultural stages. Herder was apparently familiar with Vicho's ideas. Both Vicho and Herder were translated into French at about the same time, and both had a major influence on the prevailing French view of a linear progress to history. And shout out to the French finance, you know, systems generally naturally, and shout out to fintech generally naturally, to which they, because obviously, like in 2005, y'all were there, you know, 2005 in fucking Mountain View, Google, right? People already peeped your games. There's predecessors around prominently in 2012 who just knew that your shit, you know, like the parentheses, quote unquote, fintech shit, end quote, and parentheses. 2005 Mountain View, right? So Herder maintained that while nations are born and die, culture itself only progresses. Both had a prevailing French view of a both had a major influence on the prevailing French view of a linear progress to history, to which they introduced the cyclical view of the rise and fall of nations. And obviously, in ancient secret Egyptian texts, they talk about Min and Osiris and Ma in a very particular niche way. It's aside from the surface level Egyptian understanding, they're talking about Osiris in like in an original story of truth, and how they live through the cycles, like the chakra intelligence beings, they live through the cycles. So this is talking about the time, right? The German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, 1770 to 1831, began teaching at the University of Berlin in 1818. Every other year from 1822 to 1831, he devoted his lectures to the philosophy of history. 5 sets of lecture notes taken by auditors were edited by Professor Edward Gans, and after Hegel's death, and published in 1837 as The Philosophy of History, a second edition edited by Carl Hegel with the addition of material from G.W.F. Hegel's own notes, appeared in 1840 and was published in English in 1857. An introduction to the lectures, originally written by G.W.F. Hegel himself in 1822 and edited the 4th time by Johannes Hofmeister, was published in 1955 as Lectures on the Philosophy of World History, Introduction, Reason in History, and appeared in English in 1975. Hegel's one-cycle theory is based on the dialectical thesis-antithesis pattern, a spiral progress of development from lower to higher levels in phases of thesis and antithesis, on roles in the historical process of the entire world, which falls into 4 stages: Asia, Greece, Rome, Germany. To Hegel, history so this is conscious evolution throughout time. All is, quote unquote, some type of one, end quote. And there's a death process to this. That we like, so that's one of the major lessons too, respectively. It's doing the full circle to some type of death, right? Because they're saying that this shit passes, right? So the Tao, the business and the economy and the like, you know, the different, you know, evolutions of, like, you know, I guess you could say communism is also, it's not necessarily always recognizing the Tao of it, right? And that's okay. To Hegel, history is the concrete manifestation of the life of the spirit. To Hegel, history is the concrete manifestation of the life of the spirit. So he's using history. People could demonize history or mishap this history, but in his opinion, history as the life of the spirit, right? Because some of these could also be opinions too, right? Obviously, like the life of the spirit, you could find the life of the spirit other than just history, right? But obviously he's saying history is important, right? So history is important. You gotta, like, you know, you gotta know where you're coming out of to know, like, you know, where you're at, you know. So that's a simple insight right there, right? It's a simple insight, you know. That's cool that, you know, the tech world is getting this influence and hype. Great, good job, guys. Good job. Just standardly though, you know, standardly. So yeah, obviously it's like, you know, start, you know, where, you know, start. He believed that the evolution of human thought and a dynamic process of progressive development was a manifestation of God. The view of history, the whole of human history, seen as a single evolutionary process, came to an end with the development of liberal democracy, according to historian Francis Fukuyama. I'm going to end it right there. It's fitting. It's fitting. A lot of, like, ancient, genuine Japanese influence. Much respect, much forgiveness, perhaps. And, you know, we could agree that we can come to a realization of certain subjective context of what we think one is, when we could say what one is could not be that, and it could be more, right? Like, what is, like, people are repping one thing away from the one. It's one thing away from the one, because it's obviously, like, what, like, people are repping one. What does that mean? You know, one, just one thing. So if it's one thing and you're saying it's not one thing, you're saying something is something when it's not that thing. You're saying something is what it's not. So that's the differentiation between the ordered nature mechanics and the anti-ordered nature mechanics. It's an advanced, hyper sophisticated differentiation within the mechanics of the nature matrix. So I ended on 3/4 chapter 39, Mercury and Venus. Shout out to that balanced work and that hard karma of Mercury and Venus within the state of Earth's transition. And have the best life ever, guys. Any comments? So now I'm just going to close it down. I'll read one. And since I was hinting on one, I'll just read. Did I read chapter 10 of the Tao? Just chapter 10. Just 10. Original open source. Carrying vitality and consciousness. Carrying vitality and consciousness. Embracing them as one, quote unquote. Differentiation of nature mechanics and anti-nature mechanics that could energetically subtly bleed into the system of reality, the reality systemic processors in the background of what you're doing in your news thingy or your news category, right? So chapter 10 of the Tao, carrying vitality and consciousness, embracing them as one. Can you keep them from parting? Concentrate. So this is dark surrender. From the start of the conversation, in the middle of the conversation, to the end of the conversation, quote unquote, human design, no choice, end quote. This is dark surrender, or not, you know? Carrying vitality and consciousness, embracing them as one. Can you keep them from parting? Question mark. Concentrating energy. over times, different, mechanics and emanations in time and formats of time. Concentrating energy, making it supple. Can you be like an infant? Can you reach that paradox where you could balance the infant and be mature with the universe type of shit? Can you be like an infant? Purifying hidden perception. God allows the manipulation energetically to be there in 3D because he's balancing his fucking shit, Purify or not, purifying hidden perception. Can you make it flawless? Loving the people, governing the nation. Can you be uncontrived? Loving the people, love what hates you, supposedly. And it even says that in the Bible, love thy enemy. So you want to get biblical? Let's get unconsciously biblical, right? We hear these biblical verses. Love thy enemy. Bible chapter. Love thy enemy, Bible verse. Matthew chapter 5, chapter 5, verse 44. The most commonly cited Bible verse about loving one's enemy is Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, canto or whatever. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. And pray for them. So the English language it's on some other shit too, Matthew chapter 5, 4. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. That because you get the gift to be the children of your Father, that you may be. You have the gift to be a child of the Father God in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He causes one type of his ego, a God is using his ego sun to rise on the evil and good, on the duality, and sends rain on the righteous and unrighteousness. And then he emits his light energy casually onto the duality. If you love those who love you, what reward do you get? Or you'll get some type of liberty. Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Alleviation. You don't have to worry about what God's taking care of, right? You don't have to worry about what God's taking care of. It's like you're letting go of the burden. It's a niche type of unexpecting. You can't. It's a certain nuance of unexpecting. You can't really explain the nuance, right? Shout out to the presidency of of quote unquote God, right? End quote. So if you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Some type of casual mental liberty. Are not even the tax collectors doing that? They're hunched. There's a hankering. There's like a mental hankering that they're expecting that is just their mind is like now kind of like it's warped. And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? If you're only greeting your own people, what are you doing more than others? Because it's implying you're trying to be competitive with doing more, but you're not by limiting yourself. Do not even pagans do that? Pagans don't do that. Be perfect, or do they? So pagans might do that. Pagans might have their own secret circles, the secret pagans, the secret super real deep ones, not the new distorted standard ones. they could be quote unquote exclusive, right? End quote. And that's ironic, you know, it's ironic for me to say exclusive, right? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. 5:43 to 48. Chapter 10 of the Tao. So now we're touching base on the Bible too, with the Tao. So Tao and Bible. Chapter 10, carrying vitality and consciousness, embracing them as one. Can you keep them from parting? Concentrating energy, making it supple. Can you be like an infant, purifying hidden perception? Can you make it flawless, loving the people, governing the nation? Can you be uncontrived? As the gate of heaven opens and closes, can you be impassive? As understanding reaches everywhere, perhaps, can you be innocent? Perhaps we understand your Kali Yuga psychology in India. Like, it's been understood since 2015. No more dishonesty. As understanding reaches everywhere, can you be innocent? Producing and developing, producing without possessing, no one's perfect. Doing without presuming, no one's perfect. Growing without domineering, no one's perfect. This is called mysterious power. You have the best life ever.